This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, it's a beautiful Monday here in Pittsburgh. The sun is shining. The skies are clear. The snow is mostly melted. And we're back on YouTube. So
back at it. Normal schedule here.
We're back. We're back where we belong, and But we did do shows all last week. Somebody asked me on Twitter last week, "Hey, when are the shows?" I'm like, "We've been doing shows."
I think the YouTube stuff's gotten so popular that people forget this was a podcast first.
Right? That's
which is cool.
Why we're here. Yeah, but
there's other ways to listen to us.
Absolutely. And if you missed our coverage last week from the Senior Bowl, well.
It was
it's still available out there.
You
can go out and find it.
And most of it still holds up. I mean, we broke down players a lot that were down there. And
had some interesting interviews and all that fun stuff. But anyways, the news of the day today, in addition to the teams arriving in New Orleans for the Super Bowl.
It's officially Super Bowl week.
It's officially Super Bowl week. Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen.
I haven't done a ton of homework on it. I know that the dead cap money, you mentioned this off the air, so I'm stealing it from you, but the dead cap money is brutal.
Yeah.
And obviously they have the Watson contract, which is the biggest albatross
in
the whole sport. Yeah. So I don't know the numbers.
It would cost them $36 million against their cap. You have a dead cap charge of $36 million to trade him before the draft.
Okay.
For a team that's already over the salary.
I'd say they're a mess already.
The only way they could make that possibly work is if somebody said, "Okay, we'll take Myles Garrett off your hands, and we'll also take on Deshaun Watson."
Yeah, I had a long conversation about this earlier. That maybe the Browns use this as an out, take them both.
But then you're not going to get any kind of compensation.
You're going to get like nothing back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a wash. I mean, that's basically the way that would go, which still might be worth it for them.
You're right.
I mean,
it might be worth it
bad
for them to get that contract off the books. But
right. Like, I didn't do the homework on it. I stole it from someone. It might even been Mike Sando a couple weeks ago. But he basically did the math of how much, what draft pick would be worth taking Watson. And if you came to me and said, "Hey, please take Watson off my hands. What will you give me to do it?" Sando basically came to the conclusion that you give me Watson and the second overall pick, and I'll give you nothing, and that's a wash. I mean, that's basically the kind of deal you have to make.
Because salary cap space, unlike some of the other sports,
we're just having a basketball conversation.
And baseball doesn't even have a salary cap. But for the salary cap sports, the salary cap actually does matter to a large degree here. You can
finagle it, but it definitely matters. It's not as fictional as people tend to think, especially when you do these huge deals. This Watson deal is that bad.
Yeah. And the other thing with the Garrett situation, they've already created by kicking the can because of the Watson deal.
Right. They just keep making it worse.
They kicked a lot of the money for Garrett down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So he has void years in 27, 28, 29, and 30 that already have moved $12.2 million, $8.4 million, and $4.7 million into those caps.
And they just keep borrowing from the bank of Myles to make up, so they keep thinking they're a competitor.
Right.
Which a lot of people did coming into the season. I kind of thought they would be a playoff type team. I didn't think they'd be the second pick in the draft. I thought they'd be an 8-9 win type of team. I didn't think they'd be this type of.
I thought they were the fourth place. I think they're the
I
fourth
picked them
best
to be fourth
team
too. Yeah, but I didn't think they'd be the top 5 pick
because of Watson.
Because of Watson, right?
I mean, he just stinks.
He's bad. He's really bad.
He stinks.
So, is it worth it to take them both? But what team could handle that? You have to be a team like the Patriots, and Garrett doesn't want to go to a non-competitor. I mean, I assume has a lot of say of where he could go in this deal. He doesn't want to go to a good team.
He has he doesn't have a no trade clause. So
doesn't he?
You want out? Okay, here you go. We're going to send you wherever we send you, and you're going to have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of the coin is, so if you did that and you took on the Watson deal, Garrett's going to want a new deal.
Yeah, probably
wherever he goes.
Right. You say he has 2 years on his deal.
He has 2 years on his deal, and by the way, his base salary for the next 2 years, because again they've maneuver around the cap a little bit, is $1.25 million and $1.3 million.
Which is wonderful as the new team.
As the new team, that's
Right.
all you would owe him. But he wants more. I assume he would want new money with this.
I would imagine. I don't know. I mean, could a team like the Bears take him on? I mean, if with Watson, I'm talking about. I mean, there's not many teams that, like, if you just said in a fantasy football kind of way, Myles Garrett's on a trade block, who's interested? 20 teams should call you. I mean, I absolutely believe that, and 10 of them should be quite serious. If it's Garrett and Watson, one team might call you.
Right.
I mean, like, we just can't do that.
Even if, Cleveland still would probably have to take on half of that salary just to make it palatable. I mean, because otherwise
They're not
it's
going to
just
get off
not.
scot-free and just have no cap.
But the talk out there that you're going to want 2 first-round draft picks just to start, that's not going to happen.
I don't know. I agree with you. I think he's that good.
It's not. It's not about the player.
Okay.
It's about what the situation is and how you're going to have to acquire him. If that were the case, you're not getting 2 second-round or not getting 2 first-round picks for him. It's not going to happen.
Not if they have to eat $36 million and you have to give them a new deal.
Right.
Right.
It's just not going to. It doesn't work. The numbers don't work.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to do that. That's why I think Myles Garrett's going to be a Cleveland Brown, and they're going to have to.
I wonder if he's like a trade deadline guy then.
Maybe.
Or if he's a post-draft guy.
Well, he could also be a guy who just says, you know what? I'm going to sit out. I'm going to do a sit. He can't sit out.
Right.
He can't hold out a training camp because he's under contract. The fines would be ridiculous.
It's like $100,000.
It'd be like the Trent Williams situation. And you can't waive those because he's under contract. Right. So he would have to do a sit-in and just not play. Could the Browns make a handshake deal with the Lions or Bills or whoever and say we will trade you to him after June 1st? But they're going to want the draft picks now.
But maybe you just can't get them. I think the Browns just tank this year and are going to try to be the worst team in the league.
Which is why he doesn't want to be there to begin with.
Right. And I think this even makes it an easier decision. Like if they were thinking about, let's do the Russell Wilson deal with Kirk Cousins. No. I mean, I think they're going to try to lose. Plus, that's how that organization, they're fine.
And that's part of the issue here. So Myles Garrett has been with the Browns the same amount of time as TJ Watt. He's been part of 6 losing seasons.
Sure. Right.
There. They drafted him with the number 1 overall pick.
They were the worst team in the league, right.
They're drafting second this year.
Yeah, it's gotten no better.
There's not they haven't.
They're in worse shape now than then.
They haven't made
because
any
of the Watson
progress.
deal. Yeah.
They haven't made
them
progress.
and the Saints are the worst jobs on the planet now. I mean, neither one's going to be good for a couple of years.
And that's why Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland.
Right. Which brings me back to what I was saying, though. Like, I bet, like, Ward and Bitonio, and I bet you can get those guys if you want. The Steelers can't. I mean, I don't think they'll go in a division. But if Garrett's not going to play for me or demanding a trade, you don't try to Kirk Cousins it up and win 9 games and save this thing and bring back Nick Chubb or, that kind of thing. I mean, I think you just – and they'll do it more than any team in the league.
Blow it up
Whoever
again.
you want, right.
Yeah,
picks,
blow it up again.
Picks. And maybe you draft Abdul Carter, and next year you try to get your quarterback.
I remember having that conversation. Oh, my God. This is – well, as long as David Todd has been gone. It was 10 years ago. And being on the radio with him on these very airwaves and him talking about what a great job Cleveland was doing in acquiring all these draft picks. I'm like, here's the thing.
Like they had 3 first-rounders in the joke.
At some point you have to use them. Like they kept trading for future picks. At some point you have to actually utilize those picks and hit on them.
And the other problem, too, like the Ravens are dealing with this Hamilton and Linderbaum we talked about last week. Can you pick up both 5th-year options? Right. No, we can't. Things like that, So picks are great, but culture's better.
Right.
Tanking's brutal.
Which brings me to the idea that the Steelers should do this with TJ Watt.
Right.
Because I've seen that draft class. I've seen that bandied about on social media.
It's not apples to apples.
It most certainly is not.
Right.
One organization has consistently, and the playoff stuff aside, but they've consistently been
I know the Browns have 1 win in that time in the playoffs.
But they've also had 6 losing seasons.
And they're picking second in
Folks,
the draft
I
again,
guarantee you right now, if the Steelers had 6 losing seasons in the last 8 years, you would not be happy about that.
And bad losing seasons.
And bad losing, like
right,
number
right.
1 overall pick kind of stuff.
Quarterback after
number
quarterback.
2 this year.
Right. And folks, those are the 2 organizations on the planet I've gotten a paycheck from, and they both look at this thing really differently.
Much
Let me
differently.
tell you that. I
Yeah.
mean, one was a long time ago, but still.
But to your point, the culture matters.
The culture matters. I mean, you start trading Cam Hayward and Watt and those type of guys, things that were built in Joe Green's era go away.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just where the Browns have always been that team. You know, it's not fantasy football. I would not trade Watt. Watt's not getting traded. The only way I'd even listen is if I saw a direct path for a quarterback. You know, if I could take that first-round pick and hand it to this team now, not
But
I hope I get a top 5 pick next year.
It would have to be the right quarterback, and I'm not trading him away just to tank. Well, that'll help us lose next year.
Right. No.
There's no guarantees.
Yeah. I'm not trading him for Shedeur Sanders.
The Las Vegas Raiders won what, 4 games this year?
Yeah, something like that.
Was it 4 or 5?
There's so many terrible teams.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And so winning 5 or 6 games next year guarantees you nothing when it comes to getting a quarterback.
Right. And how many years like this rookie class have 6 in the top half of the draft? Don't count on that.
Can't count.
Right.
And even I hear, but next year's class is supposed to be loaded. Okay,
it's fine.
5 years ago, Spencer Rattler was supposed to be the second coming of a future top overall pick.
Yeah.
What did he go in the 6th round last year?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no guarantees that that's going to work. And the Raiders won.
And you'd have to gut this team so much to guarantee the top 5 pick.
The Raiders won 4 games this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're picking 6th.
They're picking 6th, right?
6th.
Yeah.
Winning 6 games doesn't even get you in the top 10.
The Jags had the number 1 pick for most of the year, and then they moved to 8 right at the end, and then they lost 1. They got to 5.
I mean, the haves and have-nots in the league right now. You got to be really stinking bad to get into that top 10.
And I think the Browns will be that bad next year,
assuming
Garrett doesn't play for them and they don't take the Kirk Cousins route. And I mean, I think that's going to be their plan. And I think they'll trade the Wards and Batonios and maybe JOK and guys like that too, and just
it's a truly miserable experience.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
bags on your head. Nobody going to the games.
You sign a bunch of free agents that can't get signed elsewhere to 1-year deals, and you hope one of them's an okay player, and you bring them back.
Yeah.
You just rent dudes, and you hope draft picks hit.
And then when you do get that quarterback, you've got nothing around them.
That's I don't take a quarterback this year, Browns. I mean, take Abdul Carter, take Hunter, whatever.
You
throw Sanders or Ward into that mix, you're just teaching them how to lose.
Right.
I mean, it's what you're doing. You're teaching
it's what
them how
you
to
did.
lose.
It's what happened to Tim Couch, who I thought was a pretty good prospect, and they ruined him.
My Browns, but I wasn't there with Couch. They're like, it wasn't his fault.
No.
we screwed him up. He was a really, really good player and a really good prospect that went to an unwinnable situation.
Yeah,
I mean, he went to an expansion team, right?
You just couldn't win. And, they've done it. They did it with Baker Mayfield to a degree.
It's done with everyone in between too. Right.
And sometimes it takes those guys a little while to get there.
Well, they all need help.
They need help. You can't do it by yourself. You're not.
Lawrence needs help.
It's not just a quarterback. It's football. There's 22 guys on the field, and you need, 35 to 40 viable players because they're all going to end up playing at some point.
I don't blame Garrett one bit for wanting out or not going to play for him again because, hey, I've done everything. I've given you everything I can. I've been your best player during this stretch by far. I'm worth every penny. I've been worth the first overall pick. You can turn me into picks or do whatever, but this is bang my head against the wall.
I'm not on board for another rebuild. I'll be 35 by the time we win.
Right.
Potentially,
right.
If you guys get it right.
If you even get it right. I mean, exactly. And the Watson thing is the biggest thing of all.
Yeah, it's just trying to equate this to anything with T.J. Watt to me is just.
I mean, one team was a playoff team and one is the second pick in the draft.
Yeah,
they're not in the same place.
They're not in the same. Not even close.
No, and the organizations aren't the same.
No,
I mean the Browns are okay tanking. That's their philosophy. Good for them. This team would never do that.
No, nor should it. And fans should appreciate that.
Yeah.
Again,
the only way I'd move any of those dudes is. Hypothetical, you love Shedeur Sanders, which I don't. And he's sitting there with the 5th overall pick, and the Jags, who have a quarterback, say, we'll give you the 5th overall pick for what? Okay. That's the only way to make a move like that.
Yeah.
But you have to love that quarterback.
Yeah, he has to be.
You have to think he can be a Mahomes, Allen type dude.
You have to know it's going to hit.
I don't think he is with Sanders. He's just a name that could be there at 5,
Yeah, you just have to know it's going to hit, because just trading guys away so that you stink in 2025 is not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. If you think you can get the quarterback, the next Ben, anything's on the table for me. You know, but not just I'm going to accumulate a bunch of picks and hope that works.
Hope is not a plan.
While we just lose and lose and lose. Right?
Hope is not a plan.
Cam Hayward in the face every day. Yeah, we traded TJ and great. That's not helping at all.
No, not at all. Or Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Mm-hmm.
Or, pick a player.
Right.
Zach Frazier. Like, you're going to get. You're
Rowan
good young
Frazier,
players.
right.
Well, this isn't going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to win, and I get it.
Yeah.
TJ Watt wants to win, and once, as he said, he wants to be a part of the solution here.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to trade you to maybe be part of this. No, that's silly thinking.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
But anyways, it
is big news, though.
Interesting little thing. He saved that little tidbit for the first week of Super Bowl week, knowing that it would create a buzz, too. I think that was very...
I mean, even his entry, I don't know if you watched the last Hard Knocks when they got eliminated, but he said, he didn't say, I'm not coming back, but he said, I don't want to be part of rebuild. I want to be part of winner. And at this stage of his career, in the way athletes are now, he has that right.
Yeah.
No
coincidence as well that their GM last week at the Senior Bowl was telling, we have no intention of trading Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Like, this has been kind of bubbling underneath the surface here for a while.
I mean, for probably a year, give or take. I mean, the writing's on the wall. They're going to be a bad football team for a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
because of the one move that they made.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's now 3 contenders in the North, where last year I thought there was 4, that could be serviceable football teams. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, Matt, I wanted to pose a question to you in the next segment regarding some of the Senior Bowl stuff. We haven't really talked about it yet, but we'll get to that when we can return right after this on The Drive. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And, Matt, the Senior Bowl now in the books, so we won't get to see any of the draftable players in this year in pads again.
Right. Basically very little football stuff. I mean,
right. Now it's all,
right.
Drills and gymnastics and jumping and running.
Pro days and right.
Does that change, or is anything that happened here with either the Senior Bowl or the East-West Shrine Bowl change your opinion on what the Steelers should do at the quarterback position moving forward?
It's always evolving, so to say no, it hasn't changed at all, it'd be crazy, because the more information you gather, the better you feel ready to make a decision. I like the mid-round quarterbacks more than I thought I would. Ohio State, Indiana, a couple of those type of dudes that are interesting to me that I wouldn't mind having in the mix. Not that they're the next Josh Allen, folks,
right,
or those are the answers, or anything like that. But I've warmed up to some of those in a bad quarterback draft. That there could be some, not diamonds, but gemstones
somebody
in the
that
rough.
You could develop,
right? Yeah, that it could be worth that pick and more. The Milrose stuff doesn't change me at all. I mean, I wish his hands were bigger. That was one thing I didn't know going in. But I think my opinion of him is basically the same. I don't think I look at Dart and say, oh, if he's there at 21, you got to take him. I'm not there on that.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be in on the top 2 guys, and I don't think most years they would be top 2 guys. But does any of this information change Fields versus Wilson for me? I don't think the answer is yes. But I do think one thing in Wilson's column is if I did love this rookie class, he's the big brother, he's the mentor, and we're definitely going to draft one. I mean, I don't know that you definitely draft one, and that doesn't hurt Wilson's cause, but how many other athletes that could play the game the way Fields does would be available as your number 2 guy? I think that has to be part of the equation for Fields. I don't see a ton of them. I don't want to roll Riley Leonard out there as a 5th-round pick or a 7th-round pick and just say, you're the backup. This isn't exactly what you asked, but since we've been together, I would consider Darnold stronger than I did a week or two ago. And if there's any rumors or any truth to Matthew Stafford potentially being available via trade, which I think isn't just smoke, because this has been going on for a while, I think you at least have to make a call.
Yeah.
Because he's great. Yeah.
Right. I'm with you on all that, except it does make me lean more towards Wilson.
Okay.
Based on what you just said about the availability of players in this draft, in this class.
And thinking about taking like a third-round guy or something like that. Okay.
Who have the similar skill set to what Fields has. If I'm gonna
there's not a lot of them, right?
Yeah, if I'm gonna rebuild my offense around Fields, which you're going to have to do if you do that.
Sure, I want it to be Eagles-esque.
Yeah,
right.
Who's that guy in this draft other than Milroe?
And there's
Riley Leonard, these guys
that doesn't move the needle for me, right? And I don't want to be married to Milroe.
No,
and I'm not sure he's good enough to even do that. I'm not turning my back on one of the best D linemen or a great receiver in round 2. If I don't love Milroe, and if I love Milroe, I might want to take him at 21.
So the guy that I get in the draft is probably going to be more of a pocket passer. With the ability to run.
Everyone has to move now. I mean, we're not talking about statues.
He'll be more of a mid-career Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Than he will be Justin Fields.
What's available in the draft?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And also what's available is your number 2 in free agency.
Right.
I don't like many of the other. I mean, like Trey Lance is almost like the Riley Leonard conversation. Yeah. What's he done? How many athletes are out there? What I'm curious, though, and I mentioned Stafford, and that's, shooting pretty high. What quarterbacks are available via trade that we might not know about? I'm curious. I haven't explored that. Here's a weird one. If you went Fields, would you consider signing Daniel Jones too?
Ugh.
And just run that?
No.
I wouldn't either, but I wanted to throw it out there because I've never said those words before. And just wanted to see if the room felt the same way I do. It's like
I can't go there.
Because they're going to want the same amount of money, and they're both going to make real money. They're not going to be,
and then you might as well have paid Wilson. At that point.
If you think that's better.
If you think that's going to at least gives you a higher floor.
Mm-hmm. But part of me says just pay Darnold then. I don't think they're going to, but if that's the route, just pay Darnold and give him a little more than both of them.
I don't even know if I'm sold on that though.
I'm not sold on any of it.
Not sold on.
There's nothing I've been sold on yet.
I mean, because if it were going to be Darnold, you're going to have to sign him to more than like a 2-year deal.
I would think it's at least 3 that you could get out of and all those things too.
You're going to be married
and
to
you don't draft them.
And then you don't.
I mean, you're trying to win today, but also with an eye on the future. That's the beauty of it to me. But cap space is something you have.
Right.
I don't want to give up
cap space for what might happen. Then you're the Cleveland Browns.
Well, no. You would never be in that
Well, you
situation.
wouldn't be trading away first-round picks, but you'd be spending that similar type of money on a hope.
Yeah, I mean, he's a $40 million guy. He's a 35. I mean, he wouldn't break the bank.
He might be more than that on the open market because there are more teams bidding on it.
Right. But that's a bite at the apple. I mean, it wouldn't destroy your organization. You could win this year and going forward. I don't like any of the options, to be honest with you. I mean, in terms of what gives you the best chance to win now and 5 years from now or 3 years from now. Right.
Here's the thing about the NFL that I think people need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as a 5-year plan in the NFL.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
The NFL is almost a year-to-year league. I could almost look at it in 2-year chunks, really, because that's kind of, I think, how you have to look at it, because you're going to turn over 40% of your roster every year. Every single year. That's why you see guys signing 2-year deals now instead of 3- and 4-year deals in free agency.
I mean, it's set up that if you're smart and you do it right, you can turn a loser into a winner pretty quick. I mean, it doesn't mean you can win the Super Bowl after you pick first in the draft, but we saw Washington, great offseason, found a quarterback, way out, Houston the year before. I mean, so that's what the league wants. They want to give you hope, and there is hope for a lot of teams.
We saw, for example, the Seattle Seahawks do that with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, right.
They went from a team that was They draft him in the 3rd round. Again, not a high draft pick, and next thing you know, they're going to Super Bowls.
I mean, Dak Prescott was a 5th.
Same thing, yeah.
Right. I mean, one of those guys
Not that they had any kind of success with that.
No,
move,
but they went from a bad team to a
Yeah.
good team. I mean, that was the Zeke Elliott trade where they're taking the top 5, you know,
Right.
or in the draft. But they found a quarterback late. And again, I don't think any of those guys are Josh Allen, but I'll take a bite on some of those quarterbacks we saw over the weekend. Maybe they're Dak. No one thought Dak was Dak, you know. I mean, you could outkick your coverage on those things.
Yeah.
I still don't have an answer. I mean, I'm not. I guess I'm closer to an answer. If they rubbed the magic lamp and said, Matt, you're in charge of the Steeler quarterback situation, I'd be like, thanks a lot. I don't love any of it.
To me, I just think that if you're going to draft a guy out of this particular class, I don't want to be married to having to take Jalen Milroe.
I 100% agree there. I want more options.
Yeah.
There's a handful of guys I am intrigued with, that are more than just runners. I mean, runners first. I mean, yeah, they all can move. They can't move. I have no interest in them, but they are more well-rounded pocket first guys.
Yeah,
which is fine. It's Burrow. I mean, they're not all.
It's
runners
Burrow.
first.
It's Mahomes.
Yeah,
Mahomes he's a pocket passer.
Allen's pretty good from the pocket,
right?
Too.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and Lamar has become a great pocket passer. Right. That all has to come no matter what. I don't know. It's still a tough conversation for sure.
No, I'm not saying I've completely made up my mind on any of this stuff, but I just think based on what's available, to me, it leans more towards that particular outcome.
Yeah. Like I would feel all things considered, I'd be pretty comfortable with Wilson and Ohio State.
Yeah, Will Howard. Their
skill
skill sets are more in tune.
And let's see what that looks like
than
for
Fields
a year.
and Will Howard.
Right. And it's also real easy to get out of. And if they both stink or a mess or get old or bust or whatever.
You've taken Will Howard in the third or fourth round.
Right.
All right, I can get out of that.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm also not married to have to draft a quarterback in this class either.
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you don't get one, you don't get one.
If you don't get one, you don't get one. Right.
I mean, or if it's a guy
between a nose and a quarterback in the third round.
If it's Tyler Schaff in the seventh round. All right.
See, he's one of the ones I like.
I like him too.
He's the one I'm kind of warmed up to.
I think he could be a guy that you could outkick your coverage on.
Yeah, 100%.
He just has an injury history that is going to scare some people.
People are like, he's a seventh-year guy. I'm like, I don't care how old he is.
He's 25. That's fine.
That doesn't matter.
That's the kind of guy that you want to draft because he's
going to do well in this league now. Right.
He's got plenty of experience, and
he's actually probably my favorite for where you can get him.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll be there in the seventh, but I'd use a fourth on him.
Yeah, so you get a guy like that again. His skill set doesn't match up with what
you don't run the Fields offense with him.
No,
he can move, but you don't run the Fields offense.
No, you want to.
Oregon thought he was Herbert.
Yeah.
He wasn't, but
he has some traits though that
absolutely. He was a 5-star recruit. And,
yeah.
Right. I mean, there's something there. I'm a fan. I like the Indiana dude too, Rourke.
Yeah, you're talking about a later round guy that is older.
To bite at the apple. And I know people are like, well, that doesn't solve your problem. Probably doesn't solve your problem.
But
we had the same conversation Friday. They're like, that's a Mason Rudolph-like pick. Mason Rudolph was a successful pick.
Yeah.
If I can use a 3rd through 5th round pick on a 10-year backup, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
It's not the answer.
It's not like he's not in the league.
Right.
Like he's still in the league and will probably end up starting some games again next year in the league.
And the Minshews of the world make $8 to $10 million. That's if you get a 4th round pick that saves you $8 million against the cap because he's a good backup for 4 years, that's worth it.
Right.
Even in itself. Not even if he doesn't develop, let alone if he turns into Dak Prescott.
Yeah. You just take
Could.
that. You take that shot, and again, you're not necessarily utilizing a high draft pick, and it doesn't preclude you from using a high draft pick next year.
That's the thing
on a quarterback.
Absolutely. So I'm open to taking one without question. I'm not married to it, but your point about Wilson being the mentor for that guy, and stylistically adds up. I agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't see a lot of athletes like athletes.
No, I don't either. And the guys that are those kind of players, I don't love
either. Right. I mean, Milroe won't be cheap. No. I might fall in love with him between now and April. There's a chance, but
I don't know.
Thing worries me.
After watching him practice all week, I don't know that I will.
The accuracy thing.
Is
really real.
Is a problem in the small hands. Or I think that is what's kind of involved in the accuracy issues.
I think he's sort of a lesser Anthony Richardson.
Right. And I don't want to deal with that.
Right. I mean, I've heard some rumors that the Colts might even consider trading Richardson. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to roll Richardson and Fields out together and be that team, but
now you're
right.
Now you're going to throw for 140 yards a game and just run.
And you have to, right?
and who cares what you have at wide receiver?
Mm-hmm.
It's a puzzle.
I think you have to set the puzzle up for the next move. You have to be a chess player here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're putting ourselves to play defense. I'm not a great chess player. I'm going to try to take his king and whatever, but I really need to be playing defense for next year or two, that I'm not stuck in a bind. Obviously, the Browns situation is the worst it ever been. I mean, that's the biggest bind in quarterback history, but I need to be open-ended in my decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And,
I do like some of these dudes in the draft, but I'm not going to give you first-round picks for them.
No.
I'm not trading up for Jackson Dart.
No, they've all got something there that, okay, there's some talent there, but he's got this. There's this, but he's that, but there's this.
I don't think it's Pickett, Ritter, Corral either. I mean, I think it's better than that, but it's not this rookie class. It's not May and Daniels and Nix.
And even in that class, the guy who's been the best of the group was the last pick in the draft.
Yeah. I almost didn't mention Purdy or Brady, but they have happened in history, where later than Dak picks have worked out.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can – that's not a plan, but take a bite.
To our discussion in the first segment, the Steelers aren't going to punt on this season, on a 2025 season. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to get a top 10 draft pick so we can get one of these guys. That's not going to happen.
And I'm mostly in the camp that if your goal is to win the most games you possibly can in the 2025 season, Wilson gives you a better chance than Fields.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we saw that, despite how the end of the season went. He's been around the block.
He's been around the block. He knows what he's doing out there. Is it perfect? No. Could Fields catch lightning in a bottle? Sure. But I think, if you sign Fields, I think you're signing him to a bridge-type contract.
Agreed. The contract would be lesser. It would definitely be a bridge contract because he hasn't earned a real contract. You know? And you better – and
he's 14-30 as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah. And you need to dedicate your offense to it, too. Yeah. Which is okay if you're the Eagles.
Yeah.
If you know you're going
to get Jalen Milroe, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can understand that plan.
But I don't want, Dylan Gabriel and Justin Fields running the same offense.
No, they're not similar at all.
No,
they're not.
I don't want, Jackson Dart running the same offense as Justin Fields.
The other thing about like a Rourke or one of those dudes we mentioned too, they'd get like every preseason rep. You'd get a lot of work to develop them, and you'd at least get a real good feel for them. Even if they didn't play one snap in the regular season, you'd know a lot more about them after their rookie year.
I know
they probably won't be great. I mean,
right.
But
that's just my feeling on it. I know people aren't going to like that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's nothing against Justin Fields. I just feel like at this point, if that's the direction.
That's a big commitment to change your – I mean, that was the reason when they went from Flacco to Lamar was when Harbaugh's seat was hot.
Hot.
I mean, it was almost forced to make that decision.
Yeah, he was going to get fired within a couple of weeks hot.
And give the Eagles all the credit in the world. But, man, and I'm not cutting on Hurts. He played phenomenal this past week. They had to do that because their quarterback's not good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, but the rest of their offense is the best in the league.
Right.
I mean, they have the best line in the league with the best skill positions in the league. Well, his job's a lot easier. I mean, maybe then Fields would be next year.
Yeah, right.
If you took Hurts and put him on the 2025 Steelers and ran the Eagles offense, it wouldn't. It's not a Super Bowl offense.
Yeah, I think if you went that direction, you almost have to take a running back in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Just ball carriers.
You want premier ball carriers because your offense is going to be based on we got to go out and run for 200 yards a game.
And the hard part and the beauty of what the Eagles have accomplished is because you have Smith and Brown, you still see 2 high shells.
Right.
No one's playing 2 high against Pickens and Austin.
No.
I don't care if you've Jim Brown in the backfield. Yeah, I mean, or what's going on, right? I mean, you're going to get loaded boxes.
Yeah.
And the Steelers ran into a lot of loaded boxes this year.
Yeah. And it would only be worse, in my opinion, if Fields is your quarterback and, now you're going to see 10 in the box.
Yeah.
Every play.
One note about Milroe, though, that I always want to make sure people realize is he's a very good deep passer.
Yeah.
The short to intermediate stuff's a disaster right now. And maybe he can marry his feet and his hands and get better at it. But he has the Russell Wilson deep stuff at least.
Yeah.
And that's about the only where the similarities kind of end.
He can't make the layups.
No, they're bad too.
Yeah,
they're bad.
Throw it to the other team bad.
Yeah, or in the stands. It seems like. All right. They're all over the place. And maybe it's a small hands thing. Maybe he'll never have it.
It's very much like Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
low completion percentage.
Yeah, and even some of the deep stuff. In Mobile last week, I'm watching him throw it, and I'm like, that's way too far inside. Like, he can throw it a long way, but he's throwing it not where it needs to be thrown.
I did like that Thursday was his best practice. I mean, at least showed progress, but the first two were bad.
Yeah.
Which you should expect. The combine, he'll light up. He'll have a 42-inch vertical and run a 4.3. And someone might take him in the first round. But, man, that's a commitment.
Yeah, it's rough. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, I'm not going to bore everybody with the entire Matt Miller draft here, but I wanted to highlight the
was this the 2-rounder that came out?
The 2-rounder that
Matt
came out.
I
wanted to take a look at the 2 picks that he made for the Steelers in this situation. Bob Labriola's head would spin if these were the picks.
Okay.
At 21, he took Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. But here's why I want to highlight.
Fine, but that doesn't make me crazy.
Yeah. Here's why I want to highlight
who's available.
Okay. The next pick in that by the Chargers was Aston Genty.
Okay. I could see going Egbuka over Genty, but one's a much higher graded player.
Then had Josh Connerly at 23, Walter Nolan at 24.
I'm in love with that guy. I mean, in love.
If Walter Nolan is there and they take a wide receiver,
yeah, I don't care which one it is.
Shame on them for 6 weeks.
He's not a nose, folks, but he is a 5-star recruit that looks like it, that is an unbelievable athlete with length.
Could be your next Cam Hayward.
It could be your next Cam Hayward. And wouldn't have to play a ton right away. He was phenomenal at the Senior Bowl. Gets off the ball with violence, and, man, he is a specimen.
Yeah.
That's actually my favorite pick right now at 21.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if he'll get there.
I can't pass on him to take a wide receiver.
No.
Who might be my number 2 wide receiver.
Oh, yeah, I would hope he would be.
Yeah.
He's first-round pick on a receiver. He's better be.
But that might be all Egbuka ever is.
Yeah.
Is a number 2 wide receiver.
No, he won't ever be
He's not going to be Justin Jefferson. He's not going to be Jamar Chase.
He'll never be a top 10 receiver in this league.
Yeah.
Nolan could be a top 10 interior player.
Right.
In 3 years, I'm talking,
Then at pick.
Were there anyone else, like, right after Nolan that was.
There were some offensive linemen.
Yeah, but no one that would, like, jumped out from a Steeler point of view necessarily.
No. That was just the one I'm like, yeah, I'm not passing on that dude.
That's one guy I just don't think you can pass on.
At 52 then, he has them taking Quinshon Judkins, the running back out of Ohio State.
He's fine. It's a little early for me for that.
Yeah.
My problem with that is not that he wouldn't be a fit. I think he's a really good player. I'd like him to be a Steeler. But if I'm using a top 2-round pick on a running back, he's got to be a home run hitter and big. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, like, keep going back to the Eagles. Eagles don't get explosive plays through the air, but they have an explosive run game. They still get explosives, Judkins is a good player, but he's a lot like Najee,
Yeah.
Very much so.
The pick, 4 picks after Judkins was taken there, at 56, the Bills take Josh Farmer.
Okay. He'd be a really good Steeler, too. He's more of a nose.
Yeah. So if this were the way that this draft would go.
Mm-hmm. Well, we would have grabbed Nolan.
Or you take Genty and take Farmer in the 2nd round.
If you knew these things, right?
Yeah.
If you could Monday morning quarterback it, that's probably your best team.
Yeah.
Or take Nolan.
Or take Nolan
right.
and then,
somebody else, right?
I'm not taking Judkins. I'm just looking to see.
It wouldn't be a back with my 2nd pick.
Yeah. Just to see who else is available.
There's only 2 backs I'd consider in the 2nd round.
Quincy
think.
Riley is there. I would.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Consider that.
Right, yeah.
The Ravens take Jalen Royals. Trey Harris from Ole Miss goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
excited to learn more about Harris.
Yeah.
At the combine and stuff.
But I'm not taking a back just to take a back.
No. I'm not either. Judkins to me looks like a third rounder that'll probably be gone by then, but I can't use the Steelers' second pick on him, I don't think. The other thing I've been hearing is just kind of a side note. People love Henderson, his teammate, because he is a home run hitter. Like, remember the conversation with Fowler about, the receivers?
Yeah.
People are looking for explosive players, and people think Henderson might run the 4.3s and end up in the end of the first round.
I can see that
which would be good for the Steelers.
Yeah,
I don't think he's for them, but I could see that happening. I don't think that's crazy. I think he's the first Ohio State back taken.
Yeah, I could see him having a
really good combine.
Not quite the rise of the Alabama kid that went to Detroit.
Gibbs.
Gibbs, but
yeah,
he has some of the similar skill sets.
Yeah, and I think people want the Gibbses of the world too. I mean, Henry and Barkley are freaks, but the beauty is they take it to the house.
Yeah,
Gibbs takes it to the house. There aren't many backs that break off 50-yarders.
No, not in the NFL.
Not with two high safeties and right.
Yeah, so
defense is designed to take that away.
Yeah, I wouldn't love this particular draft.
No, they had room together. They're Ohio State guys.
Great,
that's nice.
That's
coming
nice.
Up national title.
Did they help?
No, I wouldn't take either one with who was on the board.
And I think this is why, when I start looking at what's available in this draft, I really want to try to sign a veteran wide receiver on the market.
Me too. Even if it's Slayton. I mean, at least somebody. And the elephant in the room too is I don't know that Pickens will be back. And the only way that I think a Pickens trade is feasible is signing a starting wide receiver like the first week of free agency. I mean, that's step one to even have that conversation. Otherwise, you can't have that conversation.
Well, I'm looking here too. Some of the Betch was still available in his draft.
Mm-hmm.
The kid out of Stanford was still available in his draft. Like,
I'd rather go, just in a nutshell, as much as I like Ibuka, he's fine. I would rather take those guys in the second round than Ibuka in the first.
I think they fit your offense better too. Not that Ibuka will drive.
He's a good player.
He's a good
really
player,
good player.
and he will block and do those things.
Yep.
But
I'm liking Burton more and more too. Just explosive after the catch type abilities. But I like those second round receivers.
Yeah.
I don't know how I could pass on Nolan.
I don't know how you could either. I mean,
a fun conversation though is, in a nutshell, 21 is there. Are you taking Genty or Nolan?
That would be the conversation to me over the wide receiver.
Right,
absolutely.
right, because he's a special guy.
Yeah, and
he will take it to the house.
And Genty has that ability to be a game breaker and catches the ball well, and he's tough and he's physical, and
like, I think it would be a surprise if he's not a top 5 back. Like Bijan already is.
Right.
Bijan's maybe 2 or 3, and I'd slightly preferred prospect Bijan over prospect Genty, but they're in the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you get the best back in the draft, okay, now I'll listen to I don't care about running backs and all that stuff in terms of you can't take a running back. No, if he's the best back in the draft in a very good running back draft, and is going to be a top 10 guy, top 5 guy potentially, then you take him.
He will, on some boards, he'll have the highest grade in their draft room. And he'll probably be a top 5 graded football player in every draft room in this class. There's no Jonathan Ogden in this class. I mean, there's not much for him to go over. Hunter.
And Nolan's a guy who's, one of the top 2, in my opinion, is one of the top 2 defensive tackles in this draft.
I agree.
And again, in a really deep defensive tackle draft.
And just his profile and his makeup is so perfect with the timing of Hayward's career.
Yeah.
So perfect. Yeah, I mean, be better if he's a nose, but I don't care. You'll find a nose, or Benton will play nose, or whatever. I mean, that's not the fact you don't have Casey Hampton is not the only reason you couldn't stop the run against the Ravens.
Right.
There's other ways to play the run, right?
Yeah.
Better corner play lets me put more people in the box, or whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean you have to get a 350-pound nose, and then all of a sudden all your run defense problems are gone, and that's not the only culprit for why you didn't stop the run well at the end.
Yeah. And you can get
that guy in the 4th round.
You can get that guy. And that's what I was just going to say. Those guys are available deeper into this draft. But if I'm going to take it, that's why I can't necessarily go Grant in the 1st round.
I know. That's a tough one for me. If I traded down and picked up a 3rd-round pick and now I can do something else, I'll take him at 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't
Which
know
is kind of what the Steelers did with Casey Hampton. They moved down in that draft, picked up some extra picks, and then
because the rest of the leagues have viewed him the same way.
Yeah.
Like, boy, we really like him. We'd love to have that piece.
but he's going to play 25, 30 snaps a game.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you had to ask that question about the quarterbacks of the Senior Bowl. Well, I'll take what's the Bama kid? Harris, I think his name, the nose tackle.
Yeah.
I'll take him or Black or one of those other big athletes that can move a little bit. I'll take that guy in the fourth round. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that. Let alone Farmer in the second or something like that.
Let him eat up blocks and
there's other options.
Allow my linebackers to float the football.
And they're big, physical, heavy-handed dudes.
And that's the thing that you can't overlook here with the Steelers. They've got 2 extremely athletic linebackers now.
Yeah.
Under contract for a long time moving forward. Like, you want to protect those guys.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me crazy this time of year when people are talking about inside linebackers or even safeties and things of that nature, well, he really struggles getting off blocks. No kidding.
Yeah.
The offense, the 350-pound offensive lineman that gets out on him, and he has trouble getting off of that block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's no Levon Kirklands in the league anymore that blow those blocks up. I mean, there just aren't. And
Landon Roberts will blow that block up.
Yeah. Fred Warner has a problem getting off those blocks. Yeah. He's the best linebacker in the last 5 years.
That's why you try to cover them up.
If Zach Frazier gets to Fred Warner on the second level with a good angle, he's going to win.
Right.
He's going to win. But you got to play the pass. I mean, that's the thing. You can't just allow crossers in front of your face over and over.
No, you'll get picked apart. That's just the way the league is right now.
No question about it. But I want Nolan.
I hear you.
I think he's a perfect groom and spots player, plays 20, 30, 40 snaps a game as you progress. There's a lot to work with there.
He might be just plug him in and as your
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. He's got a world of upside.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm with you on that, and that's why I can't. That's why when we had Labs on last Wednesday, you weren't on, and
I heard a guy reamed out. Yeah,
he killed you because you had a wide receiver in the first thing. I want a big guy. I want a big guy. Well, there's a big guy.
Yeah, there's big guy options, right?
Yeah.
If Nolan went on board, I would have drafted him. I didn't control the first 20 picks.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to do that when we come back.
It's been a while. All right.
It's been a while. We're going to do a little mock draft here, and we'll see where that comes out for us. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is the kickoff of hour number 2 of The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, mock draft time here.
Yeah, it's been a while. Let's do it.
Let's get to it here. The Steelers have picks 21, 53, 85, 121, 163, 225, and 249. Now, that will change somewhat here when the compensatory picks are announced.
Yeah.
But you're going to have 21, 53, 85 for sure. Those other ones will get moved back a little bit.
They're at the end of round 3 and beyond, folks, right? And I don't think they'll end up with one.
No, I don't think they will either
right.
because of the signings that they made in the offseason. Next year they could.
Next year's possible, yeah. I don't see how active they are in free agency or, it's a side note, but like that'd be the beauty of a Devontae Adams versus a Godwin.
Somebody
if
who's
supposed to go,
somebody who got released is much bigger or much more attractive in that regard. So we're going to go into this with the assumption that the Steelers have made a couple of signings in free agency. We're going to say they've signed a cornerback.
Okay, starter
type.
Yeah.
And they've also signed another veteran wide receiver.
Okay, and a quarterback, right?
And a quarterback.
Yeah,
the quarterback.
Right.
One of those two guys.
That's going to happen no matter what.
One of those two guys is re-signed.
Okay.
They've signed a free agent wide receiver. They've signed a free agent cornerback.
So, to be a little more specific, this isn't Higgins and the problem is solved.
No.
I mean, this is a Slayton or a guy you can be happy you'd love to have last year, but it doesn't mean you're done at receiver.
Or cornerback. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to start the draft here. We're using the Pro Football Focus draft today. Well, look who's available at pick 21. Walter Nolan.
We just had a long conversation about him. I think it's an easy pick. I wonder a month from now if we're going to laugh at ourselves, though. That when he goes to the combine, lights it up, and Mel mocks him.
Let's go through the picks ahead of him here.
Okay.
Cam Ward goes 1.
Okay.
Travis Hunter 2. Teteroa McMillan goes 3 to the Giants.
Whoever gets picked 2 is going to be grumpy.
Abdul Carter goes 4.
Okay.
Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU, goes 5. Shador Sanders at 6. I mean, nothing outwardly crazy
all that
here
stuff.
at this point.
Yeah, I know.
Will Johnson at 7 to the Jets. James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee, goes 8. Mason Graham, the defensive lineman out of Michigan, goes at 9.
That's like as late as he could possibly go, too.
Ashton Genty at 10. Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall, goes at 11.
I think he's going to go in that neighborhood now.
Yeah.
I think that's set in stone pretty close.
Igbuka goes at 12 to Dallas.
That surprises me. That's
Malachi Starks goes to the Dolphins.
Okay. Holland's a free agent.
Luther Burden goes at 14 to the Colts. Josh Simmons at 15 to the Falcons. Kelvin Banks at 16 to the Cardinals. Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback out of Notre Dame, goes at 17 to the Bengals. Tyler Warren goes at 18 to the Seahawks. Mykel Williams goes at 19 to the Buccaneers. And then the Broncos take Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher, big guy out of Texas A&M.
I think he's in there earlier than that, too, now. When I said that we might laugh about Nolan at 21, doesn't imply that any of those 20 picks aren't reasonable right now. I just don't think his stock's going down between now and the draft.
But I don't know that any of these other guys' stock is going to go down either.
No
That's
question.
the thing.
No question. But if you told me today, can you swap 21 for Nolan, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would take the bird in the hand there, But I think you take him. I mean, I guess we could kick around who else is out there, but I know what our pick's going to be.
I mean, the only other receiver out there is Matthew Golden.
Mm-hmm. But we signed one.
We've already signed one. Kenneth Grant is there. I don't want to take a nose.
Not over Nolan.
Armand Membo.
Okay. He could be long gone by then, too, by the way.
Amarian Hampton. Gray Zabel.
Yeah.
Nick Scourton. Tyleek Williams. Josh Connerly.
It's an easy choice.
Jade Barron. It's a piece.
Easy.
I mean.
I think Barron could be gone by then, too, by the way.
Okay, well, that.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
And another opportunity for Nolan to be there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think you take him, yeah.
We cruise down here to 53. Top guys available. Tyler Booker, Ariante Ursary, Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa.
He's one I would consider in the second round.
Kyle Kennard, the edge rusher out of South Carolina. Savion Williams, the wide receiver out of TCU. Donovan Jackson, the offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Derek Harmon, the interior defense.
Kind of what we just did.
Yeah, he's kind of sliding down. Jordan Birch, edge rusher out of Oregon. Cameron Williams, the tackle out of Texas. Jared Ivey, edge rusher out of Mississippi. Ozzie Trapillo, tackle out of Boston College. Darius Alexander, the defensive lineman from Toledo.
We just did that, but I like him in the second round.
He could be nose-ish, though, too.
He's closer to Benton than he is Leal.
Yeah.
For sure. He's my favorite name, you've said, but we just did that.
Yeah. I'm not loving the names here at 53.
No. What receivers are available? Is Betch?
No, he's long gone.
Really?
Yeah. So you're looking at Savion Williams, Jalen Royals, Isaiah Bond, Tez Johnson, Trey Harris, Jalen Noel, Torrey Horton out of Colorado State, Pat Bryan, Kobe Hudson, Kyle Williams. So those guys got, again, that's why I don't want to fish in a shallow pond this year.
No, I know.
There's some mid-round guys or some guys who will be available later that I kind of like.
What about taking the Iowa back?
It's kind of where I'm leaning here.
I don't love what we're looking at.
No.
If I'm going to take it back in round 2, it's going to be him or Hampton, and they probably won't be my first choice.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, Hampton's sitting there would be hard to say no to, but I mean, I don't love the build when you go second round running back.
Yeah.
But he's good.
Right. I just want to take a look here.
He has some home run.
What other position we consider here? Cornerback, Maxwell Hairston is there.
Consider that.
Azirie Thomas out of Florida State. Mello Dotson, Kobe Bryant, Noah Williams. But again, we drafted, or we
signed one.
We've signed one.
I don't think either one of those dudes are slot capable, but Hairston and Thomas are very worth that pick to me.
Yeah. I just want Hairston. Yeah, he's played 12 snaps in the slot.
Yeah, I don't think either one does it. They're outside man coverage corners, which is great. I mean, if we signed a C+ level guy, not an A- level guy, you might consider it. You know.
At the safety position, you're looking at Sebastian Castro is there. He's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Johnson's the pick.
I think it's a pick. That's just the way the
board fell.
You know, right.
Yeah.
And he's a really good player, and you'd get a lot of carries.
Yeah. All right, we're up here again now at 85. Top guys available. Elijah Araujo, the tight end out of Miami, I should say.
He's really impressive. He's not much of a blocker. He is a move guy. He had a great Senior Bowl, and he's a weapon.
Azariah Thomas still there.
I think you're out.
Yeah. We'll just talk about some of the other guys here. Nick Amouari, still there. Mason Taylor, the other tight end out of LSU.
I love Mason Taylor, by the way.
Devin Neal, the halfback out of Kansas, is there. Trey Harris, the wide receiver out of Mississippi. Harold Fannin. See,
I love these picks a lot better than the second round. You know, for pound.
That's always the case.
Yeah, it is.
Deone Walker still there. Kamen Rucker, edge rusher out of North Carolina.
If I'm doubling down on D-line, I don't think Walker's my double down
No, it doesn't do it.
Right.
Quindarius Robinson, edge rusher out of Alabama. Jalen Milroe, still there. Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas, got some slot capability.
Yeah, he's not a bad player.
You got Mello Dotson, the cornerback out of Kansas. R.J. Harvey, halfback out of UCF. Will Howard, the quarterback out of Ohio State. See, if you're going to do one of those quarterbacks, this is probably where you have to take him.
It's probably where you have to take him.
Because you don't pick again until 121.
I lean towards the corner.
I'm with you. I think you take Azariah Thomas.
I think you're real happy about it. Just value.
Okay. We're back up again at 121. And, well, now it gets interesting because the best player available is Jalen Milroe. Would you take him with pick 121?
If that's our final answer, I'm not going to have a problem with it. I'd like to see what else is there, but I'm okay with that.
Riley Leonard there.
I guess it depends which quarterback did we sign, too.
Right.
We didn't specify beforehand, but, you know.
Elijah Roberts, the edge rusher out of SMU there. Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson. Jackson Dart is there.
That's crazy. There's no way he's going to be there.
They're ranking, again, I'm using Pro Football Focus's rankings here. They have him at 118.
Okay.
So
I'm not saying he's not the 118th best player, but I don't think there's any chance he's there.
I don't think so either, but I also don't think Milroe is there at this point.
I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami.
We did that.
Yeah. You're looking at Antoine Powell-Ryland, the edge rusher out of Virginia Tech. Zy Alexander, the cornerback out of LSU. Chase Lunt, the tackle out of Connecticut. Brashard Smith, the halfback out of SMU. Riley Mills, the defensive lineman from Notre Dame. Quinn Ewers, Olafumemi Oladejo, I should say, edge rusher out of UCLA.
He had a good week.
Aeneas Peebles is there. Benjamin Urasik, the tight end out of Georgia. Man, it's just...
I think you're a quarterback.
Pat Bryant, the wide receiver out of Illinois there.
It's a not bad player.
Big guy.
We haven't taken a receiver, and it'd be nice to.
We have not. I'm just looking. Let's Quincy Riley, Kyle Williams there out of Washington State.
I like him a lot.
I like him. That's kind of one
I
of the
think
guys.
that's where I would go.
That's one of the guys I had my eye on there.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know people don't want to hear this name, but we mentioned him being a lot like Deontay.
Yeah,
he's a route runner. I mean,
he's a route runner.
He's a sharp, get open, not
can
the
play
biggest.
inside, can play outside.
I think that's the pick. I mean, we could. I don't think Dart and Milroe will be there.
Yeah, Kyle Williams is the pick.
Okay. So we signed a corner and a receiver, and we drafted one in our third and fourth pick. So let's go attack those needs. You know.
Yeah. All right. So at this point, we have Walter Nolan, Caleb Johnson, Azariah Thomas, Kyle Williams.
Okay. What positions are you thinking at this point?
A nose.
A real nose. A deep tight end draft. I would look at some of those guys. There's a lot of those names I like that are probably in this neighborhood.
Slot corner,
safety type would certainly be of interest.
A quarterback is still a possibility at this point.
I would not turn my nose up at a developmental offensive lineman ever.
Yeah.
You know.
So we're up here at 163. The guys available: Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord.
People like McCord a lot, but I don't think he's athletic enough.
Kobe King, the linebacker out of Penn State. You got Seth McLaughlin, center out of Ohio State. Nick Nash, the wide receiver from San Jose State. Thomas Fedone, tight end out of Nebraska. Kyle Magani, running back out of Rutgers. Danny Stutzman there from the linebacker out of Oklahoma. Marcus Yarns, the halfback out of Delaware. Curtis Rourke is there.
I'm a Rourke fan. Side note on him. So people don't know, he was very productive at Ohio University for 3 years. Went to Indiana and had even a better year and really elevated the program. And then it came out recently, he played the whole year with a torn ACL.
Yeah, it's the second time he's torn that ACL in his right knee.
That's obviously concerning.
He played through it, though.
Right. I wonder what the combine will say about the knee, but I'm not a doctor.
John Williams, tackle out of Cincinnati. Caden Perkson. Tim Smith available there.
Ooh, he's a bully.
There's your nose tackle.
I think you do it, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to take a look here at the other.
I don't remember his height and weight, but he plays big and looks big.
He is a big dude. So he is the best of the available defensive linemen here. He is 6'4", 314, and he's probably
every bit of that.
He's probably heavier than that.
Yeah, he looked every bit.
He is a run game bully.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tim Smith, it is.
He had a play in the game. I forget who the lineman was, but it was guard crashed down on him, and he took him and just threw him
out of the bar. Yeah.
3 yards downfield and made the play. I was like, oh, okay. And he did a lot of that during practice too.
Yeah. Just not going to give you much as a pass rusher.
No, which is fine.
That's fine.
He's never going to be on the field on third down.
He's going to play
drafting
20 snaps a game. That's why we're taking him where we took him.
Maybe at most, and especially his rookie year.
Yeah. We're up here now at 225. And
this is seventh round neighborhood. Huh?
Yeah, we got 225 and 249 remaining. The best players available: Max Brosmer, the quarterback out of Minnesota; Tyler Schaff, the quarterback out of Louisville.
It's Shuck, by the way.
Shuck, okay.
Yeah,
it's Schaff.
I love him. I think Shuck's great.
Graham Mertz, quarterback out of Florida; Corinne Reed, linebacker out of Utah; Malachi Moore, safety out of Alabama; Ty Robinson, the defensive lineman from Nebraska; Isaac Tesla, wide receiver out of Arkansas.
That one's like Tesla.
Yeah.
There's like an extra A on the end. Yeah.
Samael Mondon Jr., linebacker out of Georgia. You got Jalen Walker, linebacker from Indiana. Montrell Johnson, halfback from Florida. I think you take the quarterback
I'd love to take Shuck that late.
Yep. Just take him.
Shuck it.
And we are up with our final pick here at 249. Top guys available. Graham Mertz still there, quarterback from Florida. We don't need a quarterback.
Yeah. I consider a scat back type here. Blocking tight end.
Malachi
safety.
Matavio, Matavio, I should say, tight end from UCLA. You're looking at some safeties here. Dan Jackson from Georgia. Linebacker Aaron.
Jackson's a hitter.
Yeah.
He showed up a lot.
Help your special teams.
Yeah, like demon.
Yeah. Linebacker Aaron Smith out of South Carolina State. Zachary Franklin, wide receiver from Illinois. Marcus Weir, guard from Montana State. Tommy Hill, cornerback from Nebraska. Mac McWilliams, cornerback from UCF.
He had a rough week, but he's a Senior Bowl guy, though.
Tonka Hemingway, big defensive lineman from South Carolina. You got Cam Miller, cornerback out of Penn State. Teddy Buchanan, linebacker from California.
To me, Jackson from Georgia is an ideal seventh-round pick.
Shamari Simmons, cornerback out of Arizona State. Let's take a look here just at the tight ends and see if there's any.
Yeah, it's like Lachey there or the Notre Dame dude.
You got Malachi Matavo, Brent Kuth out of Utah, Bryson Nesbitt from North Carolina, C.J. Dipre, the tight end from Alabama, Rivaldo Fairweather, tight end out of Auburn.
None of those
doesn't
do much for me, or I don't know enough about them. But
let's see if there's any slot-type corners that are there. Jabbar Muhammad.
Where's he from?
Oregon.
I know there was a lot of buzz about him before the season.
Yeah. Got a good deal of experience in the slot. You're looking at a guy, he's 5'10", 185, so he profiles as that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of battle Beanie Bishop type guy, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking for there. Shamari Simmons, I think, is another slot type guy.
This is too specific, but we just said we signed a corner. Can this corner also play slot? Then I wouldn't be interested. If it's Byron Murphy, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
Then you eliminate this Neal, but I would bet not.
Probably not. I think you take a chance that you can get one of those guys
undrafted.
So I think you take just the best player available. Is that Dan Jackson?
Jackson, to me, is an immediate stud special teamer that might be your third safety. Coming from a big-time program, smart. Yeah, I like that guy.
All right, Dan Jackson it is.
Okay. I don't think he's slot capable as a safety.
No.
But, all right. But if you get a great special team or your next killer brew, worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't like our selection of Caleb Johnson in the second round.
They never for running backs.
They never like running backs.
They probably loved the Shuck pick, though. They always commend you.
Got an A for that. We got an A for Azariah Thomas. Tim Smith was a D+, even though,
because he's run stuffer.
Yeah.
They don't think running
They don't
matters.
think that matters.
Yeah.
But Walter Nolan was a B+. Overall, did okay. We took Kyle Williams before they had him ranked, but
yeah, he was low on the list whenever we
just
were
like the
scrolling.
player.
I do too. He impressed me at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
No, he'd be a nice addition. I think he's probably a 3, maybe develops into a 2.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we got a B+ for Dan Jackson as well. Overall, we ended up with a B. Solid B.
Yeah. I don't really care about the grades.
We got a defensive end in Nolan.
2D lineman, yeah.
Who's a stud.
Yeah.
Caleb Johnson.
Stud, too.
Stud.
Is it worth a second-round pick?
Yeah.
Because we can fight back and forth on it.
Azariah Thomas is a nice developmental cornerback that
he might go in the first round.
He might.
Yeah. Plays man.
Maybe he's a heavy man guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he doesn't run super well at the combine.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he's got size.
He's a good Senior Bowl.
Yeah. Kyle Williams, again, gives us depth at the receiver position. We got a nose tackle type in the 5th round in Tim Smith. And you get your developmental quarterback in Shuck, I should say, in round 7 there. And Dan Jackson helps with your special teams.
I
don't hate it.
No, I like the process of it all, the logic behind it.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, one thing I wanted to dive into here, we kind of danced around it there a little bit earlier in the show in terms of the differences between the Chiefs and the Eagles in terms of quarterback play.
Oh, so different.
Night and day.
Night and day. I actually tweeted something today that kind of tells you all you need to know, that there's one offense on early downs, first and second downs, there's one offense that throws more than the Chiefs. On early downs, there's one offense that throws less than the Eagles. They are built totally different. One thing that is similar, though, is good on 3rd and 4th downs, conversion downs, and they don't turn the ball over a lot. They don't take a lot of negative plays, and that's a supporting cast thing, but it's mostly a Mahomes thing. He kind of breaks a lot of the metric stuff, too.
Yeah. So one of the things that Steelers president Art Rooney II said last week about that particular situation, and let me find the exact quote here, but he was talking about, being asked about the Steelers quarterback situation. And he said, look, there are 2 teams in the Super Bowl next week at that point that are drastically different in their approach to the quarterback play.
Yeah.
So getting back to our conversation in the previous hour, for example, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, does that change your thinking on what the Steelers should do at quarterback? Or if Mahomes wins another Super Bowl, does that change your thinking on, well, you got to have a passer, or no, you can do it with a runner?
Doesn't change anything because Mahomes is the alien of all aliens, and that's what you want. And you're not going to get it. Now, back to the difference between the two. Of the big-time teams, nobody hides their quarterback as much or as well as the Eagles. And he played great when these teams met 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, and he played great last week. So it doesn't mean he's not capable of winning big games. I'm talking about Hurts, of course.
Yeah.
And the opposite is true of Mahomes, of course. I mean, 3rd and 6, Mahomes is going to make a play. I mean, Josh Allen, of course. Now, I guess the question is, can an Eagles style win it all? And I think the answer is yes. Even if they lose 40-0 to Mahomes, they're in the game. You know, I mean, they have a chance to win. They're a less than a 2-point dog. I mean, can the Eagles hoist the Lombardi? Yes. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, now I'm going with Fields and I'm going to duplicate that. Because the rest of the roster is the beauty of the Eagles.
Yeah, here's exactly what Rooney said.
Okay.
And the question was, you were asked some questions about philosophically what you want your offense to look like. There's only 2 teams playing right now. When you look at it, do you say the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the most run-heavy teams where you can still win with that kind of offense to run the ball a lot? Or do you look at it and say Patrick Mahomes is on the other side and no one can beat him? We need to find a quarterback who can stand toe-to-toe. And Rooney said, it's interesting that we have 2 teams in the Super Bowl with such different styles. It shows that you can win with more than one approach. I think the bottom line is that you've got to try and win with the talent that you have and the ability. We have 2 different kinds of talent, and they have 2 different kinds of talent in their building, so it'll be an interesting game. We've got to build on the strengths that we can put together in our room, and I still think that running the ball is a route to success, particularly when you're playing without a roof and outside, things like that.
And I totally get that. I 100% get that. I'm trying to find this on my timeline because here we go. And there was a part of me years ago that I thought running the football is not as important as it used to be. It's not the same Earl Campbell, Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson era. It's not a running back-centric league anymore. It's a quarterback league. But then the quarterbacks changed and they became runners too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not Drew Bledsoe. It's not Troy Aikman. But, you know, I'm an EPA guy. And the top 6 rushing attacks in EPA per play were the Eagles, the Ravens, the Bills, the Commanders, the Lions, and the Bucks, all of whom had great years. I mean, and the Chiefs weren't far behind, but they're different because they have Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, they don't run the ball as much as these guys. And all that means is how efficient are you running the football?
And some of that's skewed because some of those quarterbacks are runners, but Jared Goff isn't.
Right.
Baker Mayfield can run, but that's not what he does.
But I don't think skewed's the right word. I mean, that's part of it now.
Right.
You know, your quarterback needs to be a runner. And some of it,
Goff isn't.
And Goff
they
isn't.
just ran the ball well
with a 2-headed running attack.
Yeah.
You know, like I was critical, used a mid-first round pick on Gibbs. That's too early for a back. Yeah, but he's a weapon.
Really,
and he's
Tampa
a compliment.
Bay did kind of the same thing, though. They just had a 3 running back
Yeah,
attack.
exactly. I mean, and they invested in O-line. They drafted a center like the Steelers did. Now, the Steelers were 24th in EPA rushing. That's not a volume thing. That's how efficient you are. And I don't care how you get there, but I think that needs to be 12th. You know, I mean, to compete with the big dogs, but it's another running back, a more running-centric quarterback, better line play, second year in the scheme, whatever it is. And frankly, I have more faith in this Steeler O-line than most people do.
Yeah, I don't get the lack of...
I get a lot of comments. Well, not until they build the O-line, this team has no chance. I'm like, they're building the O-line.
The O-line is being built as we sit here and watch.
They're the first-round pick that's coming back in the mix.
5 guys on the offensive line in the last 2 years.
Right.
And guys are allowed to get better.
Absolutely.
You aren't just, we're going to plug you in as a rookie, and that's what you are.
Yeah. I mean, now some of this, too, are the Ravens or Bills or whoever have a 10-point lead, and they hand it to their back and they run it out. But they got there by running efficiently, too. You don't get the 10-point lead by not doing that. So by no means is running the football dead. I mean, the Eagles are the epitome of that. They were a good rushing team with bad backs, and now they're an awesome rushing team with the best back.
Yeah. Well, the Ravens were kind of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They had bad backs.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards is not a good running back.
Yeah, and he still averaged 5 yards a carry.
Because everybody was worried about Lamar.
Yeah.
But if you go get a superstar back, that's what makes you difficult to beat.
But I am a believer that that's the last piece of the puzzle. And like I even mentioned the Gibbs thing. Like I said this on a different podcast. I was critical of the Lions for taking Gibbs in the middle of the first round, as I just mentioned. But I also misunderstood how far along the Lions were at that point. They were better than I thought. Foundation. They already had a line. They were at Goff. I thought at that point was I don't know about Goff. Well, he was better than I thought. St. Brown was in place. Laporta was in that draft. He still was kind of the cherry on top. To me, it's still the last piece of the puzzle, but it's important. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a million analytic studies this offseason that, running backs matter again.
Yeah.
Funny how the guy that touches the ball a whole bunch that's mattered our whole life. Yeah, running backs matter.
I think if you add for this particular Steelers roster, as it looks heading into, without re-signing anybody or whatever.
Yeah.
As you look at it, you need another wide receiver.
Absolutely.
Who can threaten teams on the outside. You need to be better with your number 2 spot. You need a more explosive running back.
Preferably. It's funny because I was asked a question. I wanted to ask it to you now that I mention it. Like, are you happy with Judkins or the Miami dude who are physical as could be or Gordon, but they're not home run hitters? Or are you going to lean towards Neal, who maybe has a little more breakaway speed, or Harvey? I'm not talking about the top 3 guys.
Yeah.
Everybody likes top 3 guys. Something about physicality. I'd like
to marry the two.
Yeah, I'd love to marry the two. And that's tough for me. If I have to pick between the two, I'm not picking the 200-pound back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do think you need more explosive plays in the run game. But you can't, to me, maybe goal number 1 of the whole Steeler offseason is you can't be 24th in rushing EPA. When
you run it the second or third most times in the league.
And you can't average 4.0 yards per carry. Now, obviously, breaking off 80-yarders helps that. But if I can get that to 4.3, and be middle of the pack and still have a voluminous running game, one of my favorite words, that starts to pay off, but you can't be below average on a per rush basis. And I don't think they're that far away from changing that. Year 2 in the scheme, I don't think Najee really fit the outside zone scheme to begin with. And that was kind of a square peg round hole. And I know the next guy will, whether he's explosive, big, small.
And that's not to say Najee's been a bad player or anything of the nature.
Was very useful.
Yeah.
I think the line is trending in the right direction. Washington's a killer in the run game. You're still going to get some quarterback rushing production, Wilson, Fields, whomever. And frankly, if you're a little better at receiver, they ran it at stacked boxes at like the 8th highest ranked in the league too.
Yeah.
Just get someone out of the box a little bit more.
Get somebody out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
And not just moon balls, be a little scarier with your intermediate passing game. These aren't huge things to ask.
They're
These
not.
are a couple rungs up the ladder. This isn't, turn into go get Mahomes. Well, that's
right.
not the answer. That's not a path you can take. You can't choose that adventure.
Yeah. I just think a running back, to me, a stud running back, a guy who is a game breaker at the running back position, who can also break some tackles and be a nice complementary piece. We saw it really with what Arthur Smith had in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
With those 2 backs. Mm-hmm. And people are, why aren't they using Bijan Robinson more? Because the other guy's good too.
The other guy's good too, right?
Like you got to utilize them both because if you want to run the football as much as you do, I mean, even if you drafted a running back in the 1st or 2nd round this year, let's say you got Omari and Hampton.
Yeah. Falls the 2nd round, too good to pass up. Boom.
Jaylen Warren's not going away.
I was going to say, I know you believe this too. I think Warren's a very good player.
Yeah.
I mean, and I thought we saw glimpses of it in the second half of the season. We've seen huge portions of it through his whole career here. I do think he was a little injured to start the season.
Yeah.
But he can be my primary back, kind of, my 55, 60%er. He doesn't have to be a 30%er to me.
Yeah.
I mean, his role can grow. I got no problem with that.
But
I don't think he's going to hit 80-yarders. But
if I outdraft him a little bit, okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that too.
I am too.
And he stays in the same role, but now I've got a more explosive lead back. Okay.
Yeah. And do I trust new guy to pick up 3rd down blitzes and stuff? I don't know.
Well, I know I've got a guy that can do that.
I can. Yeah, right. And I actually wouldn't mind, and we've talked about this a lot too, that their 3rd back could be the 7th round pick that's 195 pounds.
That could be your beep guy.
Yeah. And he's
returning kicks for you. And
maybe runs down on kickoffs or something too if he's the right type. there's so many backs to pick from in this draft.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe double dip. But if you go Hampton, you're not going to double dip, Maybe an undrafted free agent, you give more money than usual.
Yeah.
But to me, a huge goal that I don't think is talked about enough in the media here is the running game has to become more efficient. However you get there, it has to become more efficient because you're going to run the ball a lot. You're not going to lead the league in pass attempts. This is not the Bengals.
No, you're just not going to. You're not going to do that. But I want to. If you want to utilize the talent that you have,
most of which is coming back.
Yeah. And to Rooney's point, you got to maximize what you've got. I think another running back helps you maximize what you've got. You've spent all this money on or draft picks and draft capital on improving your offensive line.
Yep.
All right. That should be the case. Your offensive line should be better as a group.
You would hope they're going the right direction.
Yeah.
It's worrisome if they're not.
Right. Now you got different questions to ask. But if those picks look like they're now getting it. And these guys are all going to be, 23, 24, 25 years old next year.
Yeah.
All right. Now
I'm throwing Washington in that mix too.
Yeah.
Because he's a killing machine.
He's like a sixth offensive lineman.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, as an aside, somebody asked me about that. I released my tight end position outlook today, and somebody asked me, was Washington a wasted pick? I'm like, no.
Oh, no.
He played almost 60% of the snaps last year. How can you think he was a wasted pick?
He's like Ricard or Juszczyk or some freak that every
But his question was,
love to have.
Because he doesn't have as many catches, was he a wasted pick? I'm like, no.
I think quite the opposite. I think he was a steal.
Yeah.
And I think you really have to know the game. Not that I'm at a coach's level, of course, to understand how valuable he is.
He changes how defenses approach when he's on the field. Like, okay, we can't just have our 230-pound linebacker lining up opposite him because he's going to kill him.
I mean, he can deal with Highsmith and Watt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the run game, he can deal with real legit edge dudes. He can deal with Myles Garrett. He can deal with 3-4 outside linebackers and win. 1-on-1v1. Let alone you get him on a safety or a linebacker. And I think I can make the argument that he's the most improved Steeler from 2023 to 2024. There's probably something I'm forgetting, but he's in the conversation. And if the knee's not much of an issue and he is catching a little more balls, and that piece on the chessboard doesn't exist. Yeah. I mean, that's a new piece. He's one of the most important people on the team to me.
Yeah, he doesn't look like other tight ends either.
No. He's a wrecking machine, and he's good in pass pro. I mean, he can kick slide and do left tackle stuff, and he's only getting better.
Yeah.
So, I think he's the opposite of ways to pick.
Yeah.
Frankly, if they used a first-round pick on him, I'd be like, I get it. Because he's a mismatch. Yeah. That's what the league's all about, is creating mismatches.
Yeah. So, again, if you want to take advantage of that particular talent that you have on your roster now,
right?
Okay, you got to improve at running back.
Agreed. I would be broader. You just have to improve the run game. Yeah. However you get there. If it's holes this big that you and I can run through for 5 yards of carry, great. But the ball carriers are the easiest way to do it. No question. Right.
Especially in a draft such as this one, where you've got.
There's so many to pick from.
I mean,
they're definitely going to draft a back.
Different sizes, different shapes, different speed.
Yeah.
All that's there.
Like I remember when the Packers drafted Aaron Jones. They drafted Jamal Williams like 2 rounds before.
Yeah.
And it was that running back class that had Connor and McCaffrey and
Fournette.
And it was the best ones. This has been the best one since. And they double dipped. They didn't take one in the top 2 rounds.
They took 3, actually.
They did take one in the 7th round. I forget who he even was. And Williams was fine, but then they found Aaron Jones.
Right.
It's like, we just fixed this problem with a 3rd and 5th round pick.
And they're both still in the league.
They're both still in the league, and Jones is a Pro Bowler,
Yeah.
That could happen this year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely could happen. Right.
And you, again, completely rejuvenate your running game.
Yeah. You get those guys under contract for 4 years with Warren, a 3rd and 5th round pick, or something along that ilk. Or, Hampton falls to the 2nd, whatever. Yeah. Take advantage of it.
And again, if then your quarterback is, comes in a year from now or 2 years from now, whatever that.
And you have a run game in place.
And you have a run game in place. Now you've made the landing easier for that young guy.
And you're hoping at that point Frazier's a perennial Pro Bowler, and maybe Fautano is too, or and there's not a weakness on the O line.
Right.
a year from now, you know?
Absolutely
Now,
not.
I understand the league, a lot of bad things are going to happen too. One of those dudes is going to blow out a knee or you know, do something dumb off the field. Or I mean, it's hard to maintain being – this is not how the league works. It's not a continuous curve upward, but it's a young offense.
It's a very young offense. Anyways, let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday right here on these very airways from 4 to 6 p.m. And you can download the Steelers mobile app and get the show there as well. And, well, we're back this week on YouTube, so check out the show on there as well. But we'll be back with more to finish up the show right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, I have the player schedule here for the Combine.
Oh, cool. Okay. Combine soon.
Coming right around the corner, February 23rd through March 3rd.
We'll be there.
So 20 days.
Wow. I'm psyched. I love that trip. I was psyched for the Senior Bowl, and I didn't get to go, and I always enjoy the Combine. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year.
So the first players to arrive during that week are going to be the place kickers.
Woohoo.
The defensive linemen and the linebackers.
Okay. D-line is going to be very relevant for us.
D-line is going to be very impressive in their workouts on the field, too.
Absolutely. Even seeing them walk at the podium and all that stuff, too.
Which, again, you'll get an opportunity to do. Their media interviews will be on Wednesday.
Okay.
So that's when that'll all kick off. We'll get an opportunity.
Kind of cool for us, for our purposes. You got to think the Steelers are not going to be off-the-ball linebackers, edge, certainly not kicker. We can concentrate on the big dudes.
I'm going to take a look at all the big dudes.
Yep, and they're going to be a good group.
Yeah.
Cool.
The second group coming in will be the defensive backs and the tight ends.
All of which will be relevant for us.
Yeah. And their media interviews will start on Thursday.
Okay.
So we'll get a chance to see them before we leave there as well. And then on Friday, well, actually they come in on Tuesday now.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive backs and tight ends come in on Monday, do all their stuff. And then Wednesday
all the bod pod and meds and all that kind of stuff, too.
So the media sessions for the quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers will be on Friday.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the offensive linemen coming in.
They're last.
Can't
remember the order last year or what the logic is behind the order.
They try to mix them around. It used to be the offensive linemen always went first and then everybody after that. And the defensive backs, I can always remember, were on the weekend and nobody stayed for the defensive backs.
Yeah, I know. But I think the logic is who's going to get the most views on NFL Network.
Yeah.
And I think it used to be they thought the receivers and D-backs got the most views. But I bet it's the O-linemen now. The O-line drills are great, and O-line drills mean more. And I think fans are getting smarter. You know, the receiver stuff, their 40s are great. I mean, see Xavier Worthy break it or whatever, but they're not as important as they used to be.
Well, the on-field workout stuff is going to work like this. Thursday will be the place kickers, defensive linemen, and linebackers.
Okay.
Friday will be the defensive backs and the tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to get on Saturday the on-field workouts for the running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks.
Which is probably the most viewed day.
And then your offensive linemen will have their on-field workout on Sunday, on the final day.
So the ones that they set up for the weekend are the ones that they think will be the most entertaining to the fans.
Yeah.
And they probably picked it right. Running backs aren't real great, but receivers, quarterbacks, of course, are high.
You get to see the running backs catch balls and things of that nature,
yeah.
So there's some of that.
Running backs, I'm actually kind of excited to see them in shorts and T-shirts, just body types and all that kind of thing too. I mean,
40 times will be interesting.
It's important
for that group.
too. Yeah, no doubt. But I am to see the body makeup of some of these guys. Some of them are short and thick. You know, I mean, whatever. And yeah, okay, that makes sense. The O-line drills are worth it.
You released I saw you tweeted out. It was either today or yesterday about the yards after contact.
Yeah.
For the running back group.
Yeah, I'm a believer in that. That is, I'll try to find it here real quick, but Gene T's number one. Yeah. I mean, he clearly
He's special.
is. He's special. But it adds up is one of the most, this is a good Pro Football Focus thing. We say good things and bad things about them, but they've really taken this to a new level that tackle breaking is probably the most transferable running back trait out there. You know, if you break tackles at the college level, if you're hard to tackle, I know that sounds simple. You're hard to tackle anyways. Tackling really isn't that much better at the NFL level than it, comparatively speaking, compared to everything else. But he was number one, and followed immediately by Scatabo, which I think adds up. Tootin sort of surprised me from Virginia Tech, and he also has
He's
some
a big guy
breakaway.
with some speed.
I bet he runs well.
Yeah.
And
I think his issue, if I remember correctly in my research in that, fumbles.
yeah, I think he might be right.
I think
on
he's
that
got
one,
like
too.
9 fumbles,
Yeah.
which is an
But he
issue.
might be one of the few that can be big physical and break the long ones.
Yeah.
Harvey was really high on the list, and Hunter from Auburn.
Yeah.
And those guys all add up. I mean, it's the guys at the bottom were Edwards from Michigan, who looks like a receiver.
Yeah.
Marks was a smaller dude too, and Yarns from Delaware. They're all the smaller kick return types. But it's a very transferable skill. I mean, Javonte Williams, rookie year, but he was the tackle-breaking king. David Montgomery when he came in the league. You're hard to tackle. I mean, the Steeler guys are hard to tackle.
Yeah.
You know,
Jalen Warren is hard to tackle.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, hard to tackle.
hard to tackle, absolutely. So rarely do those guys bust that are really good tackle breakers at the college level.
Yeah,
They might
I'll
not
be-
be the best back in the league, but, you know.
I'll be interested to see what some of those guys also run in terms of, when we're talking about these on-the-field workouts here. Because if you can marry that together,
Yeah.
okay, now you got something.
Not to dispute what you said, because I 100% agree with it, especially for the Steeler viewpoint, but 40 times for running backs is one of the most overrated stats
It's
out
not the,
there.
yeah.
But if some of these tackle breakers are also running faster than I thought, I'm going to bump them up my Steeler board in a big way.
Yeah.
And just because we're looking for that guy, can you find a 4th-round dude that
Let's
can
say,
do
for
both?
example, you mentioned Scatabo as the number 2 guy. on there. Everybody said, well, he's probably a 4.6 guy. What if he's a 4.5 guy?
Yeah, we went to 4.51.
Okay.
That might be a round different for me then.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'll take him a 3rd, or I'll take him a 4th. Now I'll take him a 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Because he just gives you a different dynamic.
Mhm.
He's hard to tackle, and, oh, by the way, he can run away from guys.
Yeah, because he does at college level.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Yeah. Great
No, but that's
contact
definitely something to
balance.
watch.
Yeah, great contact balance. But, I'll be interested. I can't wait to get down there again 3 weeks from now. We'll be we'll be on our way at this. Well, actually, we'll probably be there by now. But
But it's early, but it's Super Bowl week. But we'll start previewing the combine too. Like, these are the guys to watch, and some of them are attainable, some weren't. Blah blah blah.
that's what the Steelers scouts are doing right now,
Yeah,
putting together that list. Like, here's who we want to talk to.
I think most teams are all in their home city right now. Gearing up for. We're really in draft time. You got back from the Senior Bowl. Your running back coach from the Commanders, who was deep in the playoffs, saw those guys for the first time. Oh, what do you think of them? We've been scouting them all year. What do you think of them? So I think that now they're starting to really put lists together, preliminary.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's draft season.
It is draft season. But anyways, that's going to do it for the show today, Matt.
Fun one.
Absolutely. And we will be back again the rest of this week from 4 to 6. We'll continue to do 4 to 6 here as we move forward. Our schedule might change a little bit for the combine, I should say. We'll see
probably,
what all that works out to be. But
man, we get good combine guests too.
Absolutely.
Really good combine guests.
And, we will we'll be back again tomorrow. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, making sure everything sounds right, and for Tyler Vittmeyer back in the saddle over there, making sure our video gets out there on the YouTube. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.